Incident management is the discipline that coordinates people, decisions, and actions when security disruption occurs, and it is tested most when pressure is highest. In calm moments, it can feel abstract, but during a real event, it becomes the structure that prevents confusion from becoming damage. I think of incident management as the nervous system of the security program because it connects detection, decision-making, technical action, and communication into a single response. When it works, the organization moves deliberately even under stress, and when it fails, technical skill alone cannot compensate for the resulting disorder. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to the CISS books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Preparation is what determines whether response will be controlled or chaotic, because roles, responsibilities, and decision authority must be clear before an incident begins. Under pressure, people default to habit, and if authority is unclear, decisions stall or are duplicated. Preparation defines who leads, who investigates, who approves disruptive actions, and who communicates outward, so there is no debate when minutes matter. It also clarifies backups for absences and off hours, which is essential because incidents rarely respect schedules. This clarity is not about hierarchy for its own sake, and it is about speed, accountability, and reducing cognitive load when attention is already stretched. Clear incident classification is another foundational element because it separates routine events from true incidents and distinguishes major incidents by their impact. An event may be an alert or anomaly that requires review, while an incident represents confirmed security impact or imminent risk. Major incidents elevate further due to scale, sensitivity, regulatory exposure, or business disruption, and they demand additional coordination and authority. Classification criteria should be defined in advance so escalation decisions are consistent rather than emotional. When classification is disciplined, the organization can allocate the right level of response without either overreacting to noise or underreacting to real harm. Playbooks provide the backbone for response by outlining consistent steps for containment, eradication, and recovery across common incident types. They do not replace judgment, but they ensure that critical steps are not skipped and that actions follow a proven sequence. A good playbook reflects the environment as it actually exists, including tools, access constraints, and dependencies, rather than an idealized design. It also defines decision points, such as when to isolate systems, when to revoke credentials, and when to involve additional stakeholders. By reducing improvisation, playbooks allow teams to focus their judgment on the unexpected parts of an incident rather than on routine mechanics. Communication planning is as important as technical response because confusion and silence can amplify damage even when containment is effective. Internal communication defines how updates flow to leadership, operations, and affected teams so decisions remain aligned. External communication responsibilities clarify who interacts with customers, partners, regulators, or law enforcement, and under what conditions those notifications are required. Timing and accuracy matter because premature statements can mislead while delayed statements can violate obligations or erode trust. A prepared communication plan ensures that information is consistent, intentional, and coordinated rather than reactive and fragmented. Evidence handling expectations must also be defined in advance because incident response often produces information that later supports investigation, legal review, or regulatory reporting. This includes how logs, Memory captures, forensic images, and notes are collected, stored, and accessed during the response. Clear expectations help responders balance speed with preservation, so urgent containment does not destroy critical evidence unintentionally. They also define who is responsible for maintaining integrity and documentation, which reduces later disputes about what happened. When evidence handling is disciplined, post-incident analysis becomes more reliable and defensible. Triage is the entry point of active response, and it validates alerts, scopes affected assets, and confirms the type of event being handled. This step separates signal from noise and determines whether a response should escalate beyond routine investigation. Effective triage examines indicators, corroborates them across sources, and assesses potential impact quickly without jumping to conclusions. It also establishes an initial hypothesis that can guide containment and investigation while remaining open to revision as evidence emerges. Good triage sets the tone for the entire response by grounding action in verified understanding rather than assumption. Containment focuses on limiting spread and preventing further damage by isolating accounts, endpoints, networks, or services as appropriate. The goal is to stop the bleeding without causing unnecessary disruption, which requires understanding dependencies and business impact. Containment actions can range from revoking credentials to segmenting network access to disabling compromised services temporarily. These decisions often involve trade-offs between security and availability, and preparation helps ensure those trade-offs are made deliberately. When containment is timely and proportional, it reduces the scope of eradication and simplifies recovery. Eradication follows containment and aims to remove malicious artifacts and close the weaknesses that allowed the incident to occur. This can include removing malware, reversing unauthorized changes, patching vulnerabilities, and correcting misconfigurations. Eradication must be thorough because partial cleanup can allow persistence mechanisms to survive and re-trigger the incident later. It also requires coordination with investigation so evidence is preserved before destructive actions are taken. A disciplined eradication phase ensures that the threat is truly removed rather than temporarily suppressed. Recovery is the process of restoring services safely while verifying stability and integrity during the return to normal operation. This is not simply turning systems back on, and it involves validating that controls are functioning, data is intact, and monitoring is heightened to detect recurrence. Recovery often proceeds in stages, prioritizing critical services while maintaining caution around previously affected components. Communication during recovery is essential so stakeholders understand what is restored and what remains under observation. A careful recovery phase protects the organization from secondary failures that can be as damaging as the initial incident. Incident management also depends on close coordination among security, information technology, legal, privacy, and business owners because each brings a necessary perspective. Security leads technical analysis and response. Information technology supports system changes and restoration, and legal and privacy assess obligations and risk exposure. Business owners provide context about operational impact and acceptable trade-offs, which informs prioritization and timing. Coordination prevents siloed decisions that optimize one concern while harming another. When these groups work together under a shared incident structure, decisions are faster and more balanced. Tracking during an incident captures timelines, actions taken, approvals, and observed outcomes, and it serves both operational and accountability purposes. Accurate tracking supports handoffs, status updates, and after-action analysis by preserving what was done and why. It also provides evidence for regulatory reporting, insurance claims, or contractual notification requirements. Tracking should be contemporaneous rather than reconstructed after the fact, because memory degrades quickly under stress. When tracking is disciplined, the organization gains a reliable record that supports learning rather than speculation. Post-incident review is where the organization extracts value from disruption by identifying control gaps and process improvements that reduce the chance of recurrence. This review should examine what happened, what worked, what failed, and why, without assigning blame. It often reveals gaps in detection, access control, configuration management, communication, or decision authority that were not obvious before the incident. The review should produce specific improvement actions with owners and timelines so lessons translate into change. Without this step, incidents repeat with minor variations, and the organization pays the same cost again. Incident management succeeds through preparation, coordination, and disciplined execution rather than through heroics. Clear roles, classification, playbooks, and communication plans create a stable structure that holds under pressure. Effective triage, containment, eradication, and recovery reduce impact and restore confidence when disruption occurs. Tracking and post-incident review convert experience into improvement rather than frustration. When incident management is treated as an operational capability rather than an emergency improvisation, the organization responds faster, learns more, and emerges stronger from each disruption. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.